Week 30 in pregnancy hit me like a ton of bricks. It was the same way with my first pregnancy. This is my second pregnancy. I feel like I know a little bit better what to expect this time around. But man, when you were in that second trimester, enjoy that sweet spot because the third trimester is not for the weak. Currently, I'm 33 weeks pregnant, and I wanted to share just some of the things that I've learned along the way. I'm still learning throughout this process, but there's definitely things that I'm doing differently from this pregnancy versus my first pregnancy.
So walk me through week 30 for you. What actually happened to your body?
The biggest change, I would say, from the second trimester going into the third trimester is just the sheer size of your body. So for me, I gained 50 pounds in my first pregnancy. I'm hoping to land somewhere around 40 with this one. And I work out, I stay active, I generally eat all of the right foods, but I feel like in one weekend, my belly just expanded like crazy. And that was really hard for me to wrap my head around. The clothes that I was just kind of squeezing into no longer fit. My belly is always hanging out. I constantly feel like people are staring at me. Some people are a lot kinder in the things that they say to you than others. And, there's this sense of self-consciousness. And obviously it's a special time when your body's growing and you need to embrace that to some extent. But it is really hard when you are trying to get dressed and you have a very limited amount of options in your wardrobe of things that fit and still make you feel good at this point. Besides that, just trying to put your shoes on becomes a struggle. And I remember this from my first pregnancy. It's the same way this time around. I've been trying to not bend down nearly as much, but hello, toddler mom, my kid throws her toys everywhere. She drops stuff. There's no getting around it, but it's certainly not easy. From a workout perspective, I am still training every day, doing walks. I did Pilates today. I'm doing something, but it's definitely an uphill battle at this point. So doing any kind of cardio, I do light cardio throughout pregnancy, but I get on the treadmill and within 3 minutes, I have to pee. It is so frustrating. And it's anything that I'm doing, I basically have to pee every 5 seconds. I probably have to pee right now. But that is just, your baby is pushing on your bladder and that's something to be expected. But it's certainly a big shift and something that you have to plan for going from the second trimester into the third, which takes me into another third trimester challenge, which is sleep. So I've had an Oura ring throughout this pregnancy. I did not have it for my first pregnancy. I'm very committed to getting good sleep. So I try to get in bed the same time every day, around 9:30, and I aim for 8 hours of sleep. But I've been budgeting in like an extra 30 minutes of sleep whenever I can, because I wake up probably about 2 to 3 times a night to pee. So besides just that, then there's just general discomfort, right? You can't be on your back. You are supposed to lay on your left side is what I'm reading throughout this pregnancy. It's better for the baby. So throughout the night, I'm constantly trying to shift towards my left side. And there's just all these other fun things that come along with pregnancy. If you happen to get Charlie horses like I do, sometimes in the morning, if I try to get up too fast, my leg literally just cramps up and it's super uncomfortable. So I've been trying to take magnesium and things to offset that. But again, the second trimester to the third, it is definitely a big transition.
What's something that you can still do at 33 weeks in that genuinely surprises people?
Most people are surprised with the intensity that I'm able to train. So today I went to a reformer Pilates class. I'm very specific about what instructors I take, what classes I go to. This is an instructor I've worked with for both of my pregnancies. So I did Pilates right up until birth with my first pregnancy. I think with any Pilates class that's done on a reformer, it's really important to have a great instructor that will correct your form throughout the class, because I've been doing Pilates for probably 15 years at this point, and my form still needs correcting. But if you are doing some kind of movement and you're in the wrong position, I think you have a lot of potential for injury. So today I went to my tried and true Pilates class in Beverly Hills, which is called Natural Pilates. Took the owner's class, Laura Wilson. She's incredible. If you live in the LA area or New York City, she has studios there. Highly recommend. But she makes some pregnancy modifications for me. It's a group fitness class of about 10 people. So her eyes are always kind of on me. So I get the extra attention without having to pay for a private session. And that being said, the other women in the class were obviously very aware that I'm very pregnant. And one woman was kind enough to come up to me after class and just say like, wow, I'm really impressed with the intensity and the movements that you were able to do at that phase of pregnancy. And it's definitely something that was appreciated, but also something that I worked really hard for. So I've trained continuously throughout my first pregnancy. I will train continuously throughout this pregnancy. And I think that besides my limitation with cardio, I can pretty much do all of the same weighted movements that I did pre-pregnancy with, proper modifications so I don't twist or do anything crazy with my core.
Speaking of training and physical movements, are there any other things that you're doing specifically physically to prepare, such as stretching, walking, movements on the floor, anything like that?
With labor preparation, what I'm starting to get into right now at the 33-week mark is pelvic floor training, which I did not do on my first pregnancy. And I kept reading about how important this is. I did 1 or 2 sessions with a group in LA called Berlin Wellness. I really like this group. I talk about it in other videos. I see a pregnancy chiropractor there. So I had gone for some pelvic floor work before I got pregnant when I was doing my IVF treatments. And apparently my core is really strong from working out the way that I do, but my pelvic floor muscles were not that strong. So if you're trying for a natural birth, it's super important to train those muscles because it's going to help you to push the baby out faster, which is the goal that everybody is going for here, right? I mean, nobody wants to be pushing for 2 hours, 3 hours. With my first labor, I pushed for an hour. I'm hoping to cut that time down significantly with my second pregnancy.
Speaking about a natural unmedicated birth, why did you decide to go unmedicated, and was this always the plan?
I think there's a lot of confusion for first-time moms, and I was definitely in that confused camp because now people throw these terms around and I'm super familiar with them. But I want to just take a minute to break it down for people who may not be familiar with the 2 different options. So when you are pregnant, I would say most women want to have a natural birth. It's a little bit less on your body. A C-section would be the alternative, which is a major stomach surgery, and your recovery is going to be a lot longer. Now, there are some women out there who opt for a C-section. I was personally born a C-section baby. My mom did C-section for all 3 of her children. But when it comes to being able to deliver naturally, I think there are a lot of benefits to that. And so with my first pregnancy, I went into it with the mindset that I really, really want to have a natural birth. And obviously there's all kinds of surprises and plot twists, and there could be medical complications and reasons for a C-section that, may be out of your control. Some women also just like the element of planning their birth. So within a natural birth or a C-section, there are some women that just opt for an induction so that they know exactly when they're going into labor. Like I have friends who are like, I want to get an induction. I want this baby out 39 weeks. I want it to be on a Tuesday when I know my family is coming to town to help me. And there's an element of planning. My birth was a complete surprise the first time around because my water broke. So I thought that I was going to be pregnant for a couple of days longer. And if I went over 40 weeks, I was willing to get induced. That was kind of the deal I made with my doctor at the time. He was trying to induce me at 38 weeks, which is a topic for a little bit further down the road here. But for me, I just felt that if I went over 40 weeks and they needed to get labor going, I was willing to do that. But I wanted to just let God and my baby decide when the timing was right and not a doctor and medication.
Are you scared at all?
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't scared at all this pregnancy, because I think there's always, until you get to the finish line and you're holding that baby on you, there's just so many things that can change, or I don't want to say go wrong, but I've had friends deliver as early as 34 weeks unexpectedly, and thank God their babies are healthy. I'm hoping for like a 38, 39 week natural delivery this time around, but I have told myself that I'm going to have all of the nursery items, a hospital bag, and everything packed by 34 weeks just in case.
Are you doing anything mentally to prepare for that intensity?
I think that this time around, I am working with a doula, so I'm going to start taking her up on some of her suggestions. I know that there's a lot of women who look into hypnobirthing. So it's something I didn't do the first time around, but I think around the 34, 35 week mark, I want to explore that just to kind of mentally prepare. But I think having been through this before, you go into labor with a completely different mindset, with very specific goals of what you want, things you don't want to do this time around. And once you just physically have done this before, I think that there's so much power in saying, my body did this once, it was pretty intense, but we're going to be able to do it again, and we're going to do it better this time.
Walk us through your hospital bag, what you're packing, and why.
I have not officially packed my hospital bag yet. That is a to-do list item that I'm going to come back to in a week or two. So in my next video, I will literally show you what is in the bag. But my doula gave a list of recommendations, and based on my own experience from the last time, there's certain non-negotiables that I would not forget. I think one of the most important things that I didn't remember the first time around and most people overlook is if you are a health conscious mom like myself, and there's no shaming in this, but the first time around, I knew that I wanted my daughter to be on an organic formula, and I also knew that I wanted to breastfeed. So I had the formula ordered for at home, but I didn't bring the formula to the hospital. And looking back, now that I know more this time around, I don't want my daughter getting the hospital formula. I don't want this Enfamil. If you look at the ingredient list, it's pretty shocking. It's pretty gross. Similac, at the time I gave birth to my daughter Lily, was undergoing a lot of recalls. And again, I just was really put off by it. So if you compare that to some of these alternative formulas that you're probably going to pay a bit of extra money on, but I think it's well worth it. I used a German formula called HIP, H-I-P-P. If you look up HIP, and then there's another Dutch formula that's similar. I think my doula even has a different recommendation that I can talk more about in my next video with the hospital bag. I just think it's a worthwhile investment because thank God my first daughter had a great reaction to the formula that we were using in conjunction with breastfeeding. It's loaded with extra nutrients. It was easy on her digestive system. She didn't have really any issues with gas or colic and things like that. So I think that investing in a good quality formula, whether it's a US one or one of these, overseas organic ones that I can recommend, I would say that it's worth looking into and packing in the hospital bag. That would be just my first thing that I didn't do the first time around that I'm going to do this time around. After that, I think a lot of comfort items like bringing maybe a robe or something that you're going to feel cozy in. I bring my own pillowcase. I don't want to use, the hospital stuff. Hospital showers gross me out. I spent 2 nights in the hospital the last time and I couldn't get out of there fast enough. But I think having just like flip-flops or like slippers or just comfort items from home that are going to mentally make you feel at ease while you're going through this labor and recovering are really important things to pack. My husband packed a Bose speaker because he wanted to be a DJ. I think just queuing up a Spotify feel-good playlist, even if it's just on your phone, is a great thing to do ahead of time. My doula has really preached a lot about hydration, water, coconut water, make sure you have those on hand. I think before you go into labor, you want to have some snacks because I don't really think that they want you eating while you're in labor. So I would get the snacks rolling before things start intensifying. And that's kind of like my short list now. I had a lot of products from Frida Mom to go home with. You want to get like disposable underwear and all of these things that are just all loaded in this Frida Mom kit or some alternative kit. You could just go on Amazon and buy one of those, and the hospital will give you some stuff as well. But I think going in with your own stuff is important. And then the fun stuff, buy your baby a beautiful outfit, get one of those cute little cards that says the name and anything else that you want to announce and take photos of, and just packing, something cozy for yourself so you can get those special photos for those precious moments are probably the best things to put in your bag.
What are you bringing for your partner that most people forget about?
Oh, my partner. I have videos of Roman the first time around relaxing comfortably in his hospital bed. So he was pretty good on his own. I would say, again, if you want to bring a pillow from home, a change of clothes, snacks and things just to keep your partner engaged and able to really best support you would be my advice.
Are you bringing anything specifically for the labor itself, not just after?
For the labor itself, a lot of people use stress balls and things like combs, I believe, are like something that a lot of people recommend. Just so if you're pushing, you have like something that you can kind of grab onto. I haven't worked out like all of the details yet, but again, when I put that bag together, I'll be sure to lay everything out for you in a separate video so we know exactly what's going in where. And I think even just some basic toiletries are important. Like I remember when my water broke, I had always read and been told that you want to labor at home for as long as possible, which is definitely my goal this time around. But with the water breaking, it kind of sped things up. And my husband was like, we have to go now. And I'm like, wait, I just want to put mascara on. So I think if you just bring like face wipes to keep your face clean, deodorant, all of those essential items, I would say should definitely get packed ahead of time.
Can you explain the medicated versus unmedicated approach that hospitals take and what to expect?
So with my first pregnancy, I had never heard of something that you will come across in most hospital births, which is Pitocin. So if you are going to be induced, or in my case, they wanted to speed up labor because of my water breaking, the doctors can use Pitocin. It will go in you in an IV. And when the Pitocin kicks in, it will certainly speed up your labor, but it will also make things uncomfortable really, really, really fast. So, if you're watching videos on the internet, you'll see all kinds of birth stories. You'll see women that were in, crazy pain. You'll see women that give birth in a bathtub at home. You'll see women who say, oh, my baby just slipped out. I sneezed and 2 pushes later, the baby was out, right? So there's all different kinds of stories, but I can tell you from personal experience, when Pitocin kicks in, this was the worst pain I've ever felt in my entire life. And I consider myself like a pretty tough cookie, but this had me just absolutely humbled. And I was like, I cannot take any more of this pain. And so my goal with my first daughter was to do the entire labor without an epidural. And I, unbeknownst until after I gave birth, did do most of my labor without an epidural. I was 9 centimeters dilated, which is generally when you are ready to give birth. So at 10 centimeters, that's when, you're pushing, your baby's coming out, that's when all the things are happening. So at the 9 centimeter point, that's when I caved and got an epidural. And I didn't know that I was 9 centimeters because my doctor wasn't there yet. He didn't check me. And I thought the pain was just too unbearable for me to go without this epidural at that point. So the Pitocin, in many women's cases like myself, it will break you. If you go in, I think there's some statistic out there, like if you are on Pitocin, it is very unlikely that you will get through the rest of the labor without an epidural. And at this point in life, I'm starting to question things. It's, is it a hospital thing where they want to speed up your labor so that they can deliver as many babies as possible, move on to the next baby? Is it because they make money? Because I got a $2,500 bill that my insurance didn't cover for this epidural. So that was an out-of-pocket expense that I took on. I don't know, but I can tell you with certainty that if you take Pitocin, you are more likely than not going to cave and want an epidural, which is exactly what happened to me. And that really deviated from my plan of an unmedicated birth on round 1. Round 2, I am going to do everything possible to avoid the Pitocin and then ultimately the epidural.
When did you stop caring what anyone thought about how you're doing this?
I never cared what anyone thought because for me in pregnancy, it's about me and my baby and her health. And if you think about life and evolution and babies are born. I mean, I keep reading about babies being born on airplanes. Like these women are flying and they go into labor and the baby comes out, right? So are all these medical interventions really necessary? I don't know. But that being said, my first daughter was born with medical interventions with Pitocin and with an epidural, and thank God she's okay. So I'm not trying to, fearmonger anyone. It's just a personal decision. And for me, it was always a personal decision that I try to live my life as holistic and clean as possible. And I think that when you are in pregnancy and you're making all these choices, like not to eat sushi, not to have too much caffeine, not to take this product because it might, cross the placenta, but then you're actively taking an IV with something that has questionable ingredients. If you can avoid that, why wouldn't you? So for this time around, I do have the mindset that I'm gonna get through this labor without medication because I think that is what's best for myself and my baby, because even in terms of my recovery, the epidural added an extra layer of pain that I want to avoid this time around, because I think it's twofold. When you are trying to push out a baby, if you're on an epidural, your legs go numb, and all the women that get them and love them, there are some out there who do, they describe this feeling of like euphoria where they're just free and they're relaxed. But for me, I knew that the best way to push the baby out was if I could have movement in the hospital room. With an IV in my arm and my legs going numb, I couldn't push the way that I wanted to. And I think that the pushing process took longer. Then when I came home, what I also learned with the epidural was my back was extremely sore from the injection site. So just doing things like putting my dog's leash on him, it hurt. So if I can spare myself that extra pain this time around, that's what I'm going to try for. I hope you have some good takeaways from this video. I know that there are so many unanswered questions out there and everyone's situation is completely different. I am so happy to shed light on my experience and what I've learned along the way. I have been working with an amazing doula. She gives birth prep courses, which I didn't take the first time around, so I'm learning so much from her. So if I can be a resource to you, drop me a note in the comments. Feel free to send me an email. I also share a ton of pregnancy resources on my blog, inthenojo.com. I have some guides, some ebooks. Just let me know whatever questions you have. And if you have any ideas for future videos, be sure to leave me a note and I will get working on them. I've got a few more weeks before this baby comes out.